Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we're going on a really fascinating psychological journey, one that goes way beyond just, memorizing verb conjugations and vocabulary lists.
Right.
We're looking at the ultimate goal, I think, for any language learner, making English so deeply a part of you that it actually becomes a core part of your identity.
And that shift is everything. Our deep dive today is all about understanding that mental process, that architecture you need to build. We're calling it growing up with English.
So it's not a class you take.
No, not at all.
Mm.
It's about seeing the journey as a set of developmental phases you have to move through, really, much like growing from a baby to an adult.
I want to jump straight into this core metaphor because I think it just sets the stage so perfectly. The idea of English as a tool versus English as a room you live in. What is the real difference there psychologically?
Well, the difference is all about ownership, subconscious ownership. If English is just a tool, like a hammer, you only pick it up when you need it for a specific job.
A business meeting, maybe booking a flight.
Exactly, a technical report. And as soon as that job is done, you put the hammer away. You go right back to your native language for, comfort, for real thinking.
So you're always just sort of, visiting the language, never truly living there.
Precisely. You're in maintenance mode. But when English becomes that room you live in, it's just your default setting. You don't choose to use it. You just exist in it. And that's when these really profound and subtle signs of identity start to pop up.
And those are the signs that make this so interesting is when you find yourself using English for things that have nothing to do with talking to someone else. The sources mentioned a few great ones. You use it for your hobbies. You start dreaming in English. And my favorite one, it becomes your frustration language.
Yes, the frustration language, that's a huge indicator.
Right.
When you drop your keys or spill coffee and that first word that you mutter under your breath is in English, that means your brain has subconsciously given it ownership. It's the language that's closest to your sort of raw, unfiltered self.
And that's the real shift. You've moved from I am learning English to something much deeper, like I am an English speaker.
That's the identity.
Okay, so if that's the goal, where do you even begin? I mean, it's clearly not by opening a grammar book.
No, you start at phase 1, the infant stage. And this stage is just pure, raw, passive immersion. Think about a baby. A baby doesn't understand 90% of what's going on.
They're just soaking it all in.
They're soaking it in. It's sensory input.
So this is the passive immersion phase. And the sources are very clear that the goal here is deliberately not about comprehension. Why is that so important? To focus on the sound and the rhythm instead of the words.
Because you're retraining your brain at a fundamental level. If you go in demanding comprehension right away, you just introduce stress, you introduce anxiety.
The pressure's on.
The pressure's on. The goal here is just to make the sound of English feel normal, even boring. You're trying to get your neural pathways to accept the rhythm, the intonation, all of it, as just part of the environment, not a puzzle you have to solve.
So for an adult learner, someone who's busy, what are the actionable tips, the low effort, high impact things you can do?
It's all ambient work. Put on an English language radio station, a news channel, a podcast, and just let it play in the background.
Even if you're not really listening?
Even if you're not actively listening. That exposure is training your brain that English is a constant, non-threatening thing. Your brain is still absorbing the statistics of the language. It's like your background operating system is just quietly updating itself.
Okay, that makes sense.
Another great tip is changing the language on your phone to English. That forces these tiny little interactions all day long.
And the sources also mentioned watching kids' cartoons. I love that one.
It's perfect for this stage because the language is simple, there's always a visual cue for what's happening, and most importantly, it's super repetitive. You're just conditioning your mind for comfort.
Okay, so we've built that foundation. The sound is no longer foreign. What's next?
Well, now that the brain isn't threatened by the music of English, we need to start actually engaging with it. We move into phase 2, the childhood stage.
The active consumption phase. So if the infant stage was all about passive comfort, this is about active play. And, I guess, making mistakes.
A joyful mess, exactly. And the key strategy here is, honestly, a bit radical. It's integration through fun. You have to actively separate studying English from using English.
That's not about the books anymore.
Not at all. You should be doing your hobby, but in English. That simple shift changes the entire emotional dynamic. You're focused on enjoyment, not on being graded.
I feel like that's a huge mental block for people.
Yeah.
You know, if I love to cook, am I really better off watching a YouTube cooking show than, say, reviewing grammar rules?
100% yes. The moment the language serves a purpose outside of itself, like learning a recipe or beating a video game, your retention just skyrockets.
Because the focus is on the cake, not the verb tense.
Exactly. The language becomes an invisible medium to get to the outcome you want, and that's actually the goal of the whole process.
And this child mindset means you have to be okay with errors. You have to stop being afraid of sounding, well, stupid.
You have to. You need to internalize that communication is the only goal. A kid who says, "I run to the park," doesn't stop and feel embarrassed.
No, they're just excited to tell you they ran to the park.
They got the idea across, that's the win. Adult learners often freeze because they're trying to apply Phase 4 rules of perfection while they're still in Phase 2. You have to prioritize flow over perfection.
Okay, and this is also where the internal monologue comes in. This is where you start building that room brick by brick inside your own head. But that feels intimidating. How do you start thinking in English?
You start with zero pressure. Don't try to have some deep philosophical debate with yourself. Start incredibly small.
Can you give us an example? Like, what would that sound like?
Yeah. You just narrate your own life. Simple things. Okay, I am walking to the kitchen. I'm opening the fridge. Oh, there's no milk. I need to buy milk.
That's it.
That's it. It practices structure and vocabulary with absolutely zero judgment. That quiet repetition is what builds the frame of your new room.
Okay, now we get to what I think is the trickiest part for so many people. Phase 3, the teenage stage, the linguistic awkward years.
This is the plateau. It's a massive, massive stumbling block. Your passive skills, so you're reading and listening, they're probably great by now. You can watch movies, read books.
Right, you understand almost everything.
But when you try to speak or write, it just feels clunky. You feel self-conscious. You can't express your actual adult personality.
It's like you have this adult brain, but you're trapped with a teenager's vocabulary in English. You sound simple, maybe a bit foolish, and you know it. That gap is so painful.
It is, because your identity feels compromised. You know exactly what you want to say, the nuance, the sarcasm, the formality, but you just don't have the tools to deliver it yet. And the common mistake is to just try to consume more, read more, listen more.
Believing that if you just absorb enough, it'll eventually come out right.
It sounds safer, doesn't it? But the sources are clear. The only way out is a hard pivot. You have to switch from passive consumption to active production.
You have to start creating.
You have to force yourself to generate output. Complex, structured, your own thoughts. That's the only way to build the bridge between understanding and actually being able to articulate yourself.
So what are some actionable tips for that? How do you start producing?
First, start a journal or just a blank document. Commit to 1 sentence a day. Then a paragraph. There's no audience, so the pressure's off, but you're practicing building coherent thoughts.
Okay, what's next?
Use a voice memo app on your phone. This is huge for practicing speaking without needing a partner.
Just talk to yourself.
Yep. Record yourself summarizing an article you read or a movie you watched. Then, and this is key, listen back to it. It gets you used to the sound of your own voice in English and helps you pinpoint where you stumble.
And the third tip involves getting out there, digitally at least.
Right. Find online communities, Reddit, Discord, forums for your hobbies. Go in there and write. Debate things. Argue politely. Share your opinions.
Because that forces you to use more complex language.
It forces you to build arguments, to use nuance, all the high-level skills you need to actually express your personality. This is how you find your English personality. Are you funny? Are you analytical? You only find out by trying to produce language that reflects who you are.
So we finally arrive at Phase 4, the adult stage. You're fluent, but, and this is the important part, the work isn't over.
It's never truly done. This is the maintenance and mastery phase.
And the big sign you're here is that the language itself becomes invisible. You're not learning English anymore. You're using English to learn about finance, or using English to get a promotion.
Exactly. The focus shifts entirely from acquisition to application. But to stay sharp, you have to keep engaging with complex stuff. You can't just go back to watching cartoons. You need to be reading high-level literature, professional reports, things that really push you.
And this is where true cultural mastery comes in. It's not just the words anymore. It's the unwritten rules, the subtext.
It's the social navigation. Understanding that idioms aren't just vocabulary, they're cultural shortcuts. Understanding sarcasm, humor, business etiquette.
There was a great example in the source material about this. Understanding that when someone says, "Oh, that's interesting," it often really means,
"That's terrible and I'm being polite."
right.
And when you can read between those lines, when you get the passive aggression or the professional understatement, That's it. You've achieved true fluency. You're not just visiting the room anymore. You're a permanent resident and you know all the house rules.
Okay, so let's just quickly recap this whole journey. We have the infant stage, which is all about passive listening.
The child stage. Active playing, making mistakes.
Then that tough teenage stage, which is about producing content to break through the plateau.
And finally, the adult stage. Mastery and constant maintenance.
When you lay it all out like that, the biggest takeaways for you, the listener, have to be patience and immersion.
Absolutely. You just can't rush growing up. You have to commit to living the language every day, weaving it into your life, not just blocking off an hour to study.
Find the fun, embrace the mistakes, and please start producing. That leap from consumption to creation, that seems to be the key that unlocks everything else.
Which brings us to a final, really important question for you to think about. If this whole journey is about building an English personality, how does adopting this new language change the way you see yourself? What parts of your native personality, your humor, your seriousness, your way with words, do you want to bring into this new English room that you're building for yourself?